Today is a very special day on our show. We started this podcast 2.5 years ago, and today we have our most requested guest of all time. Literally not a week goes by where we don't hear it from at least one listener saying, you have to have our guest on the show. So we're beyond excited to welcome Matt Laricy of the Matt Laricy Group. Now, if you're from Chicago, you already know about Matt Laricy, but our listeners, of course, are nationwide. So I want to tell everybody about Matt in case you're not familiar. Matt is a third-generation realtor. He's also the managing broker for AmeriCorp Real Estate, company that his father started. Matt also heads his own team, which is called the Matt Laricy Group. His hard work, charisma, and true passion for the business helped Matt's reputation as a qualified realtor quickly rise. Some of Matt's accomplishments are being the #2 agent in Chicago. He's labeled one of Chicago's who's who realtors by Chicago Agent Magazine. He's a 30 under 30 by National Association of Realtors, and he's won the Chicago Agents Choice Award for Industry MVP. Matt specializes in all facets of the real estate business, whether it's navigating the way for first timers, helping a seller prep their property for sale, or providing help in the luxury market. He knows and has experienced it all. Matt's a strong believer in giving back, is a board member for the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and Matt has helped the charity raise hundreds of thousands of dollars for children in need. He is called the hardest working man in real estate, and I live a half block from his office, and every time I walk by, day or night, there's always something going on. So it's a well-earned and deserved reputation. So please, by the way, visit his website at mattlaricy.com. Welcome to the show, Matt.
Thanks for having me, man. We appreciate it, and I appreciate the kind words and nice intro.
Well, it's absolutely true. You are the most requested person to have on the show, and I know how busy you are, so it's a real honor for us and our listeners. So thank you.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah. And we should also plug that you yourself have a podcast and a vlog, and you can actually access that through Matt's YouTube channel. So we're going to post a link to that, but you can just go to YouTube, search for Matt Laricy. It'll pop right up, and subscribe to his channel. His vlogs, they look awesome, way better than this, but they're awesome, and you should definitely check them out.
Definitely subscribe. We appreciate that too, guys.
Well, I would love to talk about, I always ask this of all of our guests. You know, I know you come from a real estate family, but would love to hear about how you got started and your journey into real estate.
Yeah, I mean, since I was a little kid, getting into real estate was pretty much all I ever wanted to do. So since I was like 2 or 3 years old, I used to go to my father's office on the south side by Midway Airport area. And we would fill out like the books, because back in the day, they had like little books that you would fill out for like listings. So it's kind of like what I did. And so I just kind of always figured I'd get into real estate. And I went to college or anything like that. But literally before I actually graduated college, I already had my broker's license. At that time, there was only agents and brokers. You know, there wasn't, brokers and management brokers. So then you had to be 21 to get the broker's license at that point. So I waited till I was 21. The day I turned 21, I went and took the test and got my license. And then the day I graduated college, I literally hung my license up and started selling right away. And in fact, my father didn't allow me to work at the company right away. He just said he didn't think it would be appropriate. So I went and worked at a Century 21 for about 6 to 7 months. And the Century 21 I worked at was actually an old client of my father's that I think probably didn't like him, because I was the only person that didn't get a desk in the entire 200 agents out of that office. Like everybody had a cubicle. So that's where I started, selling. And I just, then I moved eventually to my father's company. And that was all in 06. And that's kind of like right towards the end of 06, beginning of 07. That's kind of when things kind of started getting kind of tough in the business, because you kind of start feeling the rumblings that the market was.
Yeah. You got in at a tough time.
Yeah. I mean, I decided in 2008 that I didn't want to sell in the south side of Chicago anymore. That I want to take the company downtown. And that just coincides with the fact that, and it was like maybe middle of 2008 that I want to take it downtown, which, as we know, is like pretty much when the market fell out. And my dad's a true Southside Irish prick. He's like, if you want to go downtown, you're on your own. I'm not going to give you a penny. He hates Northsiders. No offense to anybody out there that's Northsiders. He's just like, he hates them. And he's like, I'm not going to give any money or support you with your dream on that. So I came down here. I was around like 23. I didn't have any money, and I didn't know anybody downtown. I didn't know the differences between the neighborhoods either. I didn't know like what River North or Gold Coast meant. Like I didn't know that was different. I just know I wanted to sell where the big buildings were. So I came here and just hustled my way to the top. And that's just kind of like how it started.
Yeah, I was talking to Joel Schaub, who comes on our show once a month from Guaranteed Rate. He's basically said the greatest thing about you. He just goes, he just outworks everyone, and I went, yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't know if it's, of course, you're obviously extremely knowledgeable too, but outworking I know is a big, big thing for you. Would you say that's, is that your number one success secret if there was one?
I mean, I'd say it's one of them. I think the biggest problem in real estate is a lot of people just think it's easy, or they watch $1 Million Listing and they're just like, hey, like the guy like wakes up at 10 o'clock and he puts on something that looks cool and like flirts with some hot girls and, he's got a $10 million sale. And like, people just think like that's how it is. But the reality is it's a constant grind. And, we count days off here, and we're constantly making sure people are working hard. And I think that's important. But I also think the other aspect is that like I run my business like a business. And I think the biggest problem that most realtors fall into is that, you're afraid to let go of any power. You think it all has to be done by you. It's all I, and, they don't understand. And now that teams are kind of more popular than when I first started. Business. And I think the thing that probably separates most is the fact that we are able to kind of run our business like a business.
Yeah. And, actually that brings us to one of our listener questions. So one of our questions, because you mentioned structure, right? And realtors oftentimes struggle. That's not always the skill set that attracts someone to being a real estate agent. They love the freedom. They probably don't thrive in structure. And you are a huge structure guy. So one of our listeners, Suzanne, wants to know, do you have a morning routine? And if so, would you be willing to share it?
Yeah. I mean, I actually think that you have to have a structure. It's kind of like, like you have to have a set things that you have to do every day. So like even my assistants, my agents and stuff like that, every day you do a certain task. So whether it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, whatever the day is, you have certain tasks you have to do that day. But then on top of that, you then tackle whatever else comes in. So for me, no matter what, I wake up pretty much at the same time every single day of the week. Well, not pretty much every day of the week. I wake up at the same time. I go to the gym, get the stress out. And then I try to not have, if I have to have an appointment in the morning, I will, but I try not to have like a super early appointment because I like to get through all my leads, my prospecting. And then that way I'm done doing that. And I've already cleaned out my inbox at that point. So then I tackle all the other stuff that comes in, because like all day long, all I do is get emails and calls and negotiating deals and all that other stuff. But like every morning, if I didn't go to the gym, or it's easy, right? Like it'd be really easy to just be like, screw it. Let's wake up at 8 o'clock today and like sleep in and not go to the gym and just kind of wake up, and like, it's not going to make that big of a difference. But that's a slippery slope. You give up one day, then the next day you kind of sleep in maybe a little bit later, and the next, it's 10 or 11 o'clock, and that's kind of now your normal routine. So I think it's really important that you have structure in this business. And that's some of the things I try to teach my team all the time, is having structure. Every day you have to have like certain things you have to do, and you need to make sure that, I don't know if you have to write it down or whatever you have to do to make sure you do it and check it off your list. And then you can move on to everything else. So whenever I hear people talk about like, hey, I don't feel like I'm busy, or I'm not like seeing a lot of success, I'm like, well, what are you doing every day? And like, well, some days I wake up to this and some days I do this. So, I mean, I think routine is probably the most important things you can do to be successful.
Yeah, I had on years ago, I had on Josh Weinberg, who's of course Tommy's partner. Tommy's a real close friend of yours, and Josh, I'm sure as well.
Yeah.
And I asked them, this is back when I just started the podcast, didn't know what to ask people. And I said, hey, what are your goals for next year? And I had Josh on the show, and he sort of laughed and he goes, yeah, we don't really think like that. We think about discipline. And he said one of his disciplines was Tommy, and this is a few years ago, but probably still true. He said, Tommy has to meet one person a day that he hasn't met before and pitch what we do. And he goes, if he does that, we're going to hit all of our numbers. And I just love that they have those, even however many years they've been in business, they still do the basics, the fundamentals.
Right. I mean, that's it. I think the power of routine is probably one of the most powerful things you could use to be successful in this business.
Yeah. And I would love to talk about, your team hasn't just been successful. You've had a meteoric rise. You were at the very top of the mountain in Chicago. Yeah. That doesn't happen by accident. What would you attribute, in addition to having obviously incredible discipline and structure? What else do you think has really taken your team and you to the top?
Well, I mean, I think knowledge is power, so like, let's face it. So people forget, my first year in the business, I did 0 to 1 sale. I think it was like, that's it. Nothing. My second year in the business, I did 1 sale. My third year in the business, I did 2 sales. By my fourth year in the business, I did 4 sales. So like pretty much in the first 4 years, I think I made a total of like $30,000 in 4 years. Now, remember, at that point, I'm like 25-ish years old, okay? And I'm living at home in my parents' house, okay? I got dumped by some chick I was dating for a couple years. So I'm depressed and lonely at home with no sales in the worst real estate economy we've ever seen. And, you're also guys who are trying to pick up on chicks, and you're like, hey, I'm 25, I live at home, and I'm in real estate. Like, how well do you think that went over to anybody you met? You know,
Yeah, and I make no money.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, like, okay, loser, get out of here. So like, it's really easy to get down on yourself. And, a lot of people see me and they're like, well, you're young, you got so successful so quickly, but they forget like those 4 years were probably the 4 worst years, but best years of my life too. Cause it, helped build some character, brings you down to realize that like, you do have to work hard. So what I was saying during those years is that I knew I wouldn't get rich in money during those years. So I didn't care that I only had a sale a year. That didn't discourage me at all. What I always said is that like, you don't get rich in good markets, you get rich in bad markets, right? So I said, if I'm going to get rich in money, I'm going to get rich in knowledge. So when this market turns, I'm going to know every single thing possible about the market. So what I would do is I'd drive down here first thing in the morning. And like I said, I didn't know what River North or Gold Coast, or I didn't even know there was a Wicker Park. Like I had no idea that these were neighborhoods. Like we're not cultured on the South Side. Okay. So like we're not brought up like knowing all this different shit. So I would get down here early in the morning and I would walk the neighborhoods literally with a paper map. And I would draw out the neighborhoods and I'd walk into buildings and ask them if they're rentals or sales buildings. And if it was a rental or sales, if it was rental, I'd walk right out because I knew that you wouldn't make it big in rentals. You'd only make it big in sales. So if it was a sales, I would drill the doorman trying to ask him, what this stuff was and like try to figure out what the building was. And if it had a name, I put the name down. So when somebody said like, hey, this is the Montgomery, like I knew what that meant. It's like before people were like, oh, I live at X building. But what the fuck is that? Like, is that a neighborhood that I missed? So, I mean, but I did that. And you have to remember, when you wake up and you don't have enough money to pay for gas to get down to the city and you don't have any sales, it could be a pretty discouraging day and it's freezing cold out like it is today. And you're like, hey, I'm going to go downtown and walk the neighborhoods to figure out what I'm going to know about it, But I mean, that was partial of what I did to try to know. It's like, so, I try to memorize the neighborhoods. After that, I'd go back to the South Side office and I'd drill my dad. I would sit in the office, literally. He'd always put on a pot of coffee at like 6 p.m. and be like, well, I'll throw another pot on. Will you drink some with me? And I'd be like, yeah, I'll sit here with you. And I'd sit back there and I'd have fucking nothing to do. And I would just listen to him answer the phone call and see what he said. And then when he'd hang up, if I didn't know, I'd say, why did you say that? Like, what does this mean? What is title? Like, why did you negotiate this way? Like, what's a better routine? So like, I would just ask every question I could. And also at that time, there's these things called computers. So anytime I would read any article or do anything I could, like just try to research. So I was like, I kind of spent those 4 years as like a college, like education, like trying to really figure out and learn every single thing I could. So when the market started to turn, like I could answer every question. I may not have had any business, but I knew everything.
Isn't that amazing that your dad really set you up to succeed by not making it easy for you as far as helping you grow your business?
He didn't do anything. Like, no, I'm just kidding. Like, it was tough love for sure. I think he kind of helped pave the way to make sure that like we weren't brought up silver spoon fed or anything like that. And
Sure.
Still to this day, he'll never tell you we did anything right. So he bitches every day about everything. He still technically runs the company. But, I mean, I think that's the biggest problem too, is like we're brought up in tough love. My guys are brought up that way too. Yeah. But I mean, we're in a PC society today. I feel like, realtors nowadays are set up to fail. I mean, honestly, because we're in everybody gets a trophy. Everybody's going to win. And whenever there's pushback, I see it. I tell people all the time, probably the biggest reason why I think I succeed more than other people is because I want it more. Honestly, we'll be in a deal and like the people will be like, okay, well, this one's going to work out. It was nice trying to work with you. I'm like, what do you mean it's not going to fucking work out? We're 5,000 apart. Like, let's make this work. Like, go back and talk to your guy. Pick up the phone. We can make this happen. And then like, next thing you know, they're like, oh my God, they came up. Like, can you believe it? We have a deal. I'm like, yeah, no shit. Cause you called them back the second time. Like, I will tell you that happens once a day, literally once a day.
Wow.
And we're in a society nowadays where when the going gets tough, people get going. Like, they don't want to work for it. Think about it when you talk about the market. People are talking about the back half of the year. They're always like, oh my God, it's a different market right now. Can you believe it? It's so tough. It's like, what do you mean it's so tough? It's like, I showed my place like 10 times. It's like 10 times. Like real estate was never designed to sell in 2 or 3 days in the market. You got to work for it. And the people who want to work for it and try to make the deals happen, they're the ones that are successful.
Yeah, boy, that could not be better said. Absolutely right. And I think that shows in your work ethic and also just how determined. I saw you speak in an event, I can't remember, 6 months ago or so for Chicago Real Producers. Oh, yeah. And there was a panel and the panel's great. And you were up there and somebody had asked a question about when do you give up on a lead? And different people had different answers. Well, once they tell you to buzz off or whatever. And you were like, why would you ever give up on a lead? And you said, I don't care if it takes 5 years. I can't wait for that person to become a client.
Right. I mean, when somebody tells me even like it's a cold lead, you've never met him before, like, oh, we decided just to rent. Well, guess what, fucker? I just put you in my quarterly photo, and every single quarter for the rest of your life, you're going to get an email or a call from me. And you know what? I would say that every single quarter, I get at least 5 to 6 more sales from those people that people would have just thrown away. And guess what? 6 sales extra, maybe that's an extra 50 G's in our pocket, right? And then that person who bought, now they're like, oh, I love this guy. And they're going to refer me to 3 other people, right? So that's technically not just like 6 more sales. It could be an extra 20 sales in a year. And like, well, one more thing. Like I always tell people, it's like Derek Jeter. Like, singles and doubles keep you in the game. You keep getting these little wins here and there and here and there. It's not about getting a $2 million sale. You get a bunch of little ones, those add up, and that's what builds your network. And I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, I cut you off. You're absolutely right. It is singles and doubles all day. That wins the game. I would love to ask a few questions here. Our audience was kind enough to write in because you're obviously such a legend here in Chicago. Let's see.
Just a normal guy trying to succeed like everybody else. That's all.
Yeah. Well, look, that is, we've done 130 some of these episodes, all top 1% producers, and they all really, it all boils down to wanting it more. And so I think you just saying that was so important to our listeners. And also what's great too, is your first 4 years, you didn't have a ton of immediate success, yet you just kept going. And now, if it all went away tomorrow, you could rebuild it again. That's what's so amazing.
I lived at home till I was almost 27 years old. I didn't give a shit. You know what I said to myself? I said, like, every dollar I saved, I put back in my business. That's the other thing, is I really invest in myself. So like, instead of spending $2,000 a month downtown showing off that like, hey, I got money, blah, blah, blah. I didn't give a shit. I don't give a shit if everybody thought I lived out of my car. I wanted to be successful in the business, and I was willing to sacrifice everything to make that happen. So every dollar I made, all I thought to myself is I'm going to put that right back in there. It's like a lot of people talk about like how we got big on Zillow, right? Everybody was like, oh man, that guy got big because of Zillow, blah, blah. I'm going to tell you a good story what happened with that. Yeah. In 2010, I went to guaranteed rates holiday party at Martini Ranch was called, okay? Now it's Pacific Standard Time, okay? Yeah. Yeah. And I walked up there, and it was the top 5 agents in the city. I won't tell them who they are, and I worship these guys. I'm like, fuck, I'm going to go up there. I don't even know who they are, but like, they don't know me. And I'm like, hey, what are you guys doing for advertising? And like, the one guy's like, I'm on bus boards and, billboards, all this shit. And I'm in CS Magazine and all this. I'm like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, there's this company that got created. It's called Zillow, and there's another one called Trulia. And like, I played around with their algorithms. I saw what they did. I think they're doing really well. And I put my life savings on the line, and I think this might be big. And everybody laughed at me. They're like, the internet, like, what? Like, nobody's going online searching for homes. Like, what are you guys? I was like, are you guys idiots? Like, this is huge. And they're like, you'll never make anything, blah, blah. They laughed at me. And like, honestly, I left the party after that because I was so embarrassed about like how they made me feel. And I just thought to myself, you know what? I'm going to keep trying at this. I'm going to keep trying the tech route and see if that got, where it takes me. And like, now here I am. But I'll tell you, when those websites first came out, that's the difference, is that I invested my money in technology that other people thought would never work. And I did that all throughout my career, and I still do that today. When I see an opportunity, I think something's going to take off, I invest my money with it. Like, it's not, John's money. I don't get money from Compass or some of these other, places to give me money. This is my own hard-earned cash that I invest in myself to see if something's going to work. And for people out there listening, you have to know is that, like, you got to take chances. And if you believe in it enough and you're going to work on it, then do it. But if you don't believe in it, don't put the money into it, because you're going to fail it. And that's the problem with agents, is they don't, they go half in or half out, and they're like, I can't believe this doesn't work for me. It's like, well, you didn't give it your all, and that stuff costs money.
And I mean, I don't know any realtors that only did a handful of sales in 4 years who are still in the business, right? Like, that's the difference between you and everyone else, is you just stuck with it. You knew it was going to work eventually, and you became an expert. And that was really, really important. Is I don't know how many brokers even become experts anymore.
Well, I think the problem is too, is I talk about that now, is that a lot of people get their license and they have got a great network, right. And they do really, really well. But when it gets tough, and I deal with these agents all the time, like, how do you not know what a closing cost is? How do you not know what this is? Like, people actually don't know. And I say, you have to learn this stuff now, because when the market turns, which it will, I'm not saying it's going to get to 08, but it's going to get a little bit worse. What's going to happen is you're not going to be the expert. People are like, why am I going to work with them? So you have to educate yourself. Every single day, you should be reading something to make sure that you're ahead of the curve, so you can always be educated on the market.
Yeah, and that actually brings me to one of our listener questions, who'd said, how do you think, this is an anonymous question, so how do you feel the real estate market will be affected if the Republicans win the presidency or if Democrats take office? Do you feel there'll be a shift in the market?
Yeah, I think there'll be a huge shift. If the Republicans win the office, the market's going to be phenomenal. It's business friendly. Things are going to keep going the way they're going. We'll have 4 great years. If the Democrats win the office, I think it depends which one does. and it could affect the market. It's not doom and gloom. Okay, there's 3 branches of government, but I think the market probably won't be as strong as it would be if a Republican wins in office. And if you look statistically speaking, the house market's typically better with a Republican in office. It is, people have more money.
And you don't care either way, right? Like, as far as you're going to be able to grow your business regardless.
I own a business. You can't have a political opinion in my mind, because if you like Republicans, half the people hate you. And if you like the Democrats, half the people hate you. I mean, like, honestly, depending on who gets in office, everybody's going to have to make adjustments in their business. And that's just the way it is.
Yeah, I saw you speak once at an event, and somebody was asking about, gosh, where do we think the market's headed? And you were like, I don't really care, because I will find opportunities no matter what. I find, they were saying in the winter it's slower, and you were like, it's not slower for me in the winter. Like, I'm just as busy.
Well, that's the problem, is people forget, like, people keep saying, even now, they're like, oh my God, this January is different than other Januaries. It's different. I'm like, no shit, it's not different. We've been more seasonal because of these rents. We've been the most rent heavy city in the country for the last couple of years in a row. So guess what? January and February are better months than July and August. So when you're slow, October, December, the reason you're slow is because, like, everybody gets these calls like, I want a scorching deal. You want a deal? Let's talk in October. I'll follow up with you every single week until October. Then when October comes and these deals pour in, that's when we're going to buy. So that's where from October to December, I crush it in sales with investors and my deal seekers. That's it. You just have to plan your business. Or your people want a $2 million house, but they want it at 1.8. Okay, well, I could get that for you in October. I can't get it for you in February when there's 50 people looking at the same house.
That's well said. Okay, Roberto asks, what's the biggest mistake you've made while growing your business? Because he would like to avoid it. And he says, thanks in advance.
I mean, I've made more mistakes than I could count. I'm a human being just like everybody else. I make a mistake every single day of the week. It's probably more than one a week or one a day. I would probably say the biggest one that costs you the most is maybe hiring wrong. Sure. There's sometimes I make a hire where I kind of know in my gut that it's not the right move, but maybe I'm kind of desperate at the time, so I take them on. And I take a chance, and then I realize, like, really quickly they're not the right fit, and then I'm fucked because it costs you a lot of cash, and then you have to find somebody else. So that's probably the biggest mistake that cost me.
Yeah, they say fire fast, hire slow, right? Something 100%. Like that.
Yeah, I agree with that.
All right. This is a kind of a silly question, but Rianne, I think it's Rianne, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, asks about your blue suits, saying, do you always wear blue suits because you love the color blue, or is it a branding thing?
I started wearing blue suits because the suit guy I went to said he thought I would look good in blue. So I bought my first custom suit was blue. And then after that, I kind of liked that it was different. I thought everybody always wears brown or black or gray. And I was like, let's just get these obnoxious blue ones. And as I liked them more, I started getting more blue color suits. So that way I had different ones to wear. And that's it. And we have a dress code in my office. All my guys wear suits and ties at all times. So, you got to have, and if you wear them 7 days a week, you got to have enough variety in the mix, Got to look sharp for the people out there.
Yeah. I'm always shocked at how so many realtors dress so casually.
I think it's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. Yeah,
I do. I think everybody listening out there should wear a suit and tie. I mean, you don't see anybody going into a board meeting and in khakis and like a t-shirt and trying to win $100 million in business. Now I get it. Like, we're not pitching $100 million, but like, I'll tell you, I probably get 2 to 3% more business a year because I wear a suit and tie. Like, if it's between me and somebody else, I'll win it just solely the way I'm dressed.
No question about it. And it's kind of like, we think other professions, like if I went to see an attorney, if they weren't in a suit, I'd be a little disappointed and I might not trust them as much.
Yeah. I mean, I 100% agree.
Yeah. Okay. This is a good question. And I suspect I know your answer, but I'm curious to hear it. So Charles asks, with the advent of discount brokerages like Redfin, of course, being the most obvious example, have you seen this impact your business, if at all?
It's grown my business, I would say. I think there's a lot of people. It's great because like a lot of my buyers will go out with them and then realize that like they don't know what they're talking about. And then they've done the whole narrowing down for me. Like they started with like 30 areas. Now they want one area and they want like one house. And like this one popped up. Could we see it? And I'll show them one place and they buy it. It's phenomenal. And on the sell side, it's like they'll think they want to go a cheaper route. I'm not just naming one company. There's a lot of companies out there.
Of course.
I realize that wasn't the right route to go. So then they'll take us on and we'll get a more realistic price and it's easier for us. So, I mean, there's going to be different people that like different things. That's why they make red cars, black cars, blue cars. Everybody's got their own opinion. There's no right answer. There's no wrong answer. Some people could look at it as a discount. I just look at it as a different personality. That's it. For me, I don't see it as a threat. I know what I charge and the value I bring to the table. I never degrade any agent or any company. A lot of people do it to us quite often. on listing appointments. But I always say that I'm not here to tell you why I'm better than XYZ. I'm here to tell you who I am and what I can offer. And if you like me, then let's roll with it. And if not, I wish you the best. And I hope whoever gets to listen gets a sale. Like, that's it. That's how you have to live your life. If you live your life with hatred towards the other agents you're going up against or companies and you worry about that, your business is going to be affected.
Well, and it's called a cooperative commission. You might run across that person in a future deal.
The people who do business you run into enough. That doesn't make sense to like badmouth people.
Yeah, 100% agree. Okay, Lucy asks, I would love to get your opinion about iBuyers. Just for our audience real quickly, I'm sure pretty much everyone knows what that is. In case you're not, iBuyer means an instant buyer. So somebody goes onto a website, they get an instant offer on a property, and it's obviously become quite popular. What's your take on iBuyers?
I think it's a fad. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think it's a fad. I think right now the economy is unbelievable. It's literally the best economy America has ever seen. The market is unbelievably hot. A lot of realtors who've only been in the business the last 6-7 years, like, man, real estate's great. It's never bad. Well, guess what? Like, we are in fictitious waters right now. Like, naturally, the way October, December was last year for a lot of people out there that were crying and complaining about the market, that's normally like how the normal market is, okay? Like, it's always like really tough. So when you buy 3,000 homes and you have to pay tax assessments, mortgages, or whatever it is, and they're not moving really quick, what are the iBuyers going to do then? What are they going to do when they can't sell them in 2 seconds? I've never met anybody that wants to buy something that's like super overpriced. So if they have 3,000 homes that they're just sitting on, and we're now in a point where, average market time goes from, 30 days in an area in Denver they're buying, and it goes to 300 days, and they have 3,000 of those, like how well that's going to work for you. Technology disruptors will come into an industry at all times whenever the economy is very, very good. But when the economy gets bad, how much is it going to affect? It's like commission. Like, a lot of people thought commission was going to go down, right? And that when the market was booming, like things were selling in 24 hours, you would get a lot more people asking you for commission reductions. Well, guess what? Now that market time is up, I have more people who are saying like they'll pay me more if I sell it faster.
Yeah,
makes perfect sense. So it's just like, it's just a fad. ForSaleByOwner.com was the biggest threat to humanity in real estate in the 90s. How did that work out?
Right. Yeah. Great point. Yeah, everyone thought that was going to replace realtors. And it hasn't.
The real estate agent, the iBuyer, all that stuff, it's evolving. It's changing. I think the people who do it part-time and don't take the job seriously, I think a large portion of real estate agents in the next 20 years will be gone because it's been such a thing where you're like, hey, I'm going to get my license, do 2-3 deals a year, shits and gigs. It's cool, right? I think that type of stuff is going to start to change. And what I call more like bottom feeders that get a couple of deals a year are going to be off the table. And I think people are going to look at it more as a profession, which I think is only good. I think it's going to make the bigger agents be bigger.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. All right, Tim asks, do you specialize in only a certain area of the city, or do you also work in the suburbs? And should I, as a new broker, this person's in their first year, should they specialize in one area or try to go wherever the listings take them?
Specialize. We mostly specialize in just like what I call the downtown markets, which is like South Loop up to like Lakeview, and then North Center, West Loop, West Town, all that stuff. So when I first got my business, I would go anywhere. I would be in like Orland Park up to like Skokie, the South Side, like wherever, like anything that would come in, I took it, like Hungry Hippo, right? Like all the business I get, the more the better. And then I realized that like I didn't know what happened the street over, and like people look kind of like, I kind of felt like I was chasing a commission. So like now if I get something in the suburbs, I refer it out to, I have certain people in certain areas of the suburbs I give to. And it's just like me, like, and if somebody's like, well, I don't want to use you because we're buying here and we're selling in the suburbs. I'm like, ask that agent, like how many places have sold in this building in the last like 10 days? I can tell you everything about everything there is about the market here. Can I tell you what's happening in Winnetka today? I've never even been in Winnetka in my life. Like, how the fuck am I supposed to know? But yeah, I could chase a commission up there. So like I always say, figure out where you want to be, own it, specialize in it, know everything you can know about it, and then maybe expand to another smaller region that's right next to it. So it's kind of like building an empire. But you don't want to go too far where you can't maintain the balance of the empire you have.
Yeah, and it takes years, right? Like it's certainly, you're in River North, your office is there. It takes a ton of time, it takes years to really get that knowledge. And then you become so incredibly valuable to people who want to live in those immediate areas that no one really can compete with you.
Rome wasn't built overnight. You know, everybody wants that instant gratification these days. I mean, it's going to take a long, long time to do it.
And then one last question. So we've got I don't know what percentage of our listeners are brand new to the business, but we get a lot of new brokers. So we talked about discipline, structure, becoming an expert, taking your time, treating it like a business. Is there anything else that you would coach a new broker on to start doing? Maybe it's a daily discipline. Maybe it's just something to start working on. But what sort of keeps would you recommend somebody to keep their eye on the prize?
Structure your day. First off, making sure that you do the same thing all day, every day. Like every day you have to do X, Y, Z no matter what, and then educating yourself on top of that and making that part of your routine of being like every day. Like for me personally, I read 5 articles a day about the market every day, no matter what. So I can always stay in tune. You can't be like, oh, this happened. That's why I always tell people, like, the Wall Street Journal doesn't need to tell me what's happening in Chicago. I'm like Patton. I'm on the front lines. I know what's happening here better than they ever would dream to know about it. But that's because I educate myself all day, every day. For these new people out there, take every class you can. Take every webinar you can. Listen to every podcast you can. Read every book, whether you agree or you don't agree with it. And take all the information in. You could formulate your own opinions later on. The main thing right now is to actually understand what the hell you're doing. Like, don't worry about the sales. To me, I always thought the sales were a cherry on top. Like, if I got a sale, that'd be awesome. Like, yeah, I make a couple bucks to survive, but like, I was blessed enough to have parents who had like a house that I could live at. But like, so like to me, the money, I never give a shit. I still today don't give a shit about how much money I make. I care about having sales and educating myself on what's happening in the marketplace. I think that's the biggest problem for new agents. The other thing to know about is like, don't talk to me about what your GCI is. There's a lot of big companies that are like, what's my GCI going to be if I do this? Who gives a shit with your money? I couldn't even tell you what my GCI is because you know what? I don't give a shit. I don't give a crap about how much money I'm making off per deal. I care about making sure I do the best fucking job and I know everything there is about, the market and what's going on out there. And that's what you should be more concerned about than more about what you put in your pocket. And every new broker I meet, probably the first thing they tell me is, how much money am I going to make first year? It's like the first thing they tell me. I'll tell you right now, if you ever interview at my company and it's the first thing you do, I will leave that meeting right away. I cut meetings short, so I just get up and I'm like, this isn't a good fit.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, knowledge is power. And for every one of our listeners, I always recommend too, I'm not a producing realtor myself, but we interview a lot of them for our show. And so I always say, you should be terrified of somebody who's better than you. And you absolutely should be, because Matt and his team is going to come in and blow you out of the water if it's a listing presentation. So you need to up your game. So you need to spend those 4 years really upping your game so that you can compete with the big boys and girls, of course, but you need to be able to compete. And if you can't immediately articulate your knowledge, guys like Matt are going to come around and crush you. And not that Matt's looking to crush you, but he's just going to have a better.
Technically I am, because I like competition and I want to try to be the best in the business. I'll tell you, when I was trying up and coming, I would take the first 5 guys you ever see Game of Thrones?
Sure.
When Arya would tell the people that she wanted to kill every night before she went to bed, I would look at the top 5 guys and be like, these are the guys I want to take down, like all day, every day. I'd be like, what can I do to better myself to be better than them? And I didn't mean it like in a bad way. Like I feel like they're bad people. I mean, these guys are unbelievable rock star people, guys and girls. I'm just saying for me personally, I knew to be the best, I had to beat the best. So how would I beat the best? Well, I have to be better myself. These guys aren't at the top because they suck. They're at the top because they're the best of the game. So every night, like Game of Thrones, I'm saying like their names, like this is what I'm going to do to try to bring them down. And I would think about it. I had a plan of attack. I didn't just go off the seat of my pants being like, oh, let's try to do this today. Like these new people, you have to take the job seriously. If you hold yourself to a serious matter, the people you meet are going to do that as well.
Yeah. And just the sheer amount of knowledge you have on the current markets and where you see future trends going, you just make adjustments. You don't even worry about where things are headed. You just notice where they're headed and adjust the business accordingly, it seems like.
Can't be scared about it. You just got to know that like, hey, you have to also think 5 steps ahead. Like if you know like, hey, like I know this is going to be a tough end of the year. It's a presidential election year. Chicago doesn't perform all that yet. Well, I know August and December is going to be a bloodbath. So right now I'm already preparing for today. So that in August, December, I'm not held with my pants on. I'll be prepared. I'm going to crush it in August, December because I already know what I'm going to do to make sure we succeed.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I think that you've said it all. What a great conversation. I want to make sure everyone listening, if you want to see, by the way, a great website as well. There's a lot of just terrible realtor websites out there. Matt Laricy has one of the best ones, maybe the best one I've ever seen. Visit mattlaricy.com. And you can see exactly what a good website. And I love the fact that there's not too much information on there, but it's really concise. It's clear. It's a good example of how to promote your brand, which of course, obviously you know how to do.
But you know also, the one thing we did with that was that we didn't put listings on there. We're the only company that doesn't have listings on our website. And what I said is because there's so many different websites out there nowadays with listings on there. I said that, like, why not promote who you are? People want to know who you are. They're hiring you. So let that be seen. And that's what we built a website around.
And no one cares about your listings anyway. They care about you, right? I mean, yeah. So that's good, because a lot of, I always say that if you're a realtor and you're just posting ads on, or not ads on Facebook, but doing posts on Facebook bragging about your most recent listings, like, I don't know that most people care, but they want to know what you're all about. And the website does that. And then also listen to his podcast, watch his videos on YouTube, Matt Laricy Project. So I'll be sending out to all of our listeners in the notes for this episode. You'll be able to link directly to that. And again, Matt, true legend in Chicago. So grateful that I know you don't have time to do this and you did it anyway. It's a real honor for our listeners. So on behalf of the listeners and viewers, really, really appreciate it. Real quick, guys, before we go, if everyone out there tells another realtor who could benefit from listening to interviews or watching interviews like the one here with Matt, we'll be able to double our viewership. We'll be able to do more episodes for you. So please tell a friend about our website. And on behalf of Matt and myself, to all the listeners, we really thank you. Appreciate your support and continuing to watch our episodes and listen. So Matt, thanks again. Really appreciate your time. This was great.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. And thanks for watching. We're always here. If there's any questions, leave them at the bottom. I'll comment on them.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt.
All right. Thanks.